What's up, guys? Welcome back to the garage. Come on in. Another rapid reaction movie review for you today that I was not planning on doing, but I just rented on Amazon Prime a horror noir thriller, is how I would describe it, called Censor. And I kind of dug it. So I said, you know what? My kids are out playing right now. Let me come in here and do a quick 5 to 10 minute review of this film in the hopes of maybe spreading the word for other folks that like this type of horror film. Let's talk about Censor. After viewing a strangely familiar video nasty, Enid, a film censor, sets out to solve the past mystery of her sister's disappearance, embarking on a quest that dissolves the line between fiction and reality. Niamh Algar stars in this film as Enid, and she is the, without a doubt, anchor of this film. She really anchors this project. It's directed by Prano Bailey Bond, who's a director that I'm not familiar with. I really like the aesthetic of this film. Now, what I mentioned about Enid being our lead character and being the central anchor to the film, that presents a very unique kind of dilemma in the storytelling, at least from a viewer's perspective. Because what this film does beautifully, I think, especially as we get into the last half of the film, it starts to blend reality with fiction. And I'm talking about us as we're watching it. So we don't know if we're watching recordings from a VHS tape or from a film set or possibly what's actually playing out in Enid's life. Is she there? Is it happening? Or is it in her mind? Or even further meta, is she watching it on VHS tape? This film does take place in the 1980s in the UK, and I also really like that aesthetic. It was shot very dark and very grainy. Bailey Bond had this lens that he shot this film through, where you can tell that his intention was to really pay homage to the 1980s horror gore that we are so familiar with. You can even see a cover of The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, in a box of videotapes that Enid is working through. And also, I was very kind of intrigued by this whole line of work of censorship. And it's a world that I'm not familiar with, but Enid and a lot of her other colleagues in the 80s would literally sit in a room and either watch a VHS tape or in some cases have a film reel playing in a mini theater. And they would literally watch a movie, take notes, and then they would go to the censorship committee and they would say, we can cut these scenes, we should cut this, we should stop this, we should get rid of the beheading, we should get rid of this rape sequence, or like whatever it is, to give it the rating that it ultimately gets if the filmmakers agree to cut it down based on the censorship's suggestions. So that whole kind of like almost documentary in a way about 1980s censorship and censors in that line of work was very interesting to me. But then the film also takes on this kind of horror noir, as I described in the beginning. It's shot very dark, very dimly lit, but then when there is crime on camera, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'll just say something bad is happening on camera, the colors become much more vibrant. The film comes to life, so to speak, which is ironic because in a lot of cases we're witnessing death or the presumption of death in a lot of ways. I don't want to give anything away, but Enid's story is very intricate. And it's a family story, and you read it, or you heard me read there in the description from IMDb, that in fact she's trying to solve the disappearance of her younger sister. So the film for us plays back in flashbacks, so we see Enid's flashbacks. The problem is that her character suffers from not remembering because she was so young when it happened. So she's watching these different bad movies, so to speak, and that's being embedded into her mind, along with whatever suppressed memories she has of what happened to her sister so many years ago. And then us as the viewer, along with Enid, are trying to unravel all that. And like I said, it makes it, I don't want to say frustrating, but it makes it a very challenging watch for us because, again, we're trying to figure out, what is Enid really seeing here? Is she dreaming about this? Is this from a movie that she censored and watched? Is this something that she remembers from her actual life? And it's really cool in that way. It's a really kind of a mind-bending movie in that way. Now, it was a bit meandering through the first, this is only an 83-minute movie, by the way. It was a bit meandering through the first 45 to 50 minutes or so, where it was kind of like I said, it was kind of telling the tale of what censors do and what they did in the 80s and her work life and the people that she works with and her colleagues. And then we see a lot of those flashbacks to the tragedy of her younger sister, and we're trying to kind of figure out what that's going to eventually come up to be in the story. But something happens right before the 1 hour mark. I want to say around 55, 56 minutes into the movie. So about 2/3 through the movie, something happens that was a literal holy shit moment. That was really different from anything that we had seen prior to that. It was a very jarring jolt of energy for me as a viewer. And from that moment until the end of the movie, I was in. Like, I was enthralled in Eden's story. I was enthralled in trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't. And another thing I love about this movie is I don't know that I really know. It does leave the ambiguity there. Bailey Bond really does leave that kind of mystery there for us to unravel as the viewer. I literally just saw it, came out here to give my rapid reaction, so I could read into that a little bit more, maybe find out what he, intended for the viewer to see there, what's real, what's not. If you guys like mind-bending thrillers, this is an indie one. It's an indie kind of art house movie, so you have to be into that. But I am, and I love art house movies that are done very artsy, but that are mixed with that horror gore that a lot of us horror fiends love, especially from the 1980s. And like I said, there's callbacks to 80s horror in this movie. There's a video store in the small town in this movie that's ran by a dude named Gerald, and the name of the store is Gerald's Videos. I mean, come on, guys. That bumped it up a half star right there. I have to recommend Censor. I don't know if it's going to be released in theaters. I apologize, but it is fairly new. It's a 2021 film, and it just came up because I saw some people on IMDb have been watching it, and I've seen the reviews have been somewhat mixed. I didn't read any of them. I've just seen some of the ratings and stuff like that, but I really dug it. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my rating, and there you see it on the screen. 3.5 stars, 3.5 out of 5 for Censor. Any horror fans or any thriller fans, or for that matter, any art house independent movie fans, I think all of those buckets of people could get a little bit of something from this movie if you want to check it out. And my letterbox is listed down below too. Please follow me over there. Please subscribe to this channel. I'll see you guys next time in the garage.